As you know, if you accurately plan your cross countries and hold your heading well, you are highly unlikely to get lost. However, you now have some tools in your kit to deal with that "where the heck am I" feeling that comes up when you can't see that checkpoint and it should be right in front of you. Well, some of those tools mentioned involve using your radios. So let's talk about how you might use them if you're lost. There's a world of electronic marvels right at your fingertips and a host of people out there ready, willing, and waiting to help as long as you can connect with them. But before you avail yourself of all this extra help, you need to remember the operating limitations of the equipment. The limitations, you say? Well, basically, you need to be within line of sight of a ground station in order for COM or VOR radios to be useful. We said earlier that climbing is good because you can identify large terrain features easier. Well, guess what? You've killed two birds with one stone by climbing. You not only can see things better, but you get better range for your radios. With the extensive VOR coverage in this country, if you get high enough, you should almost always be able to receive at least one and probably more VORs. If you have two, you can quickly get a position fix plotted on your chart. You can then verify your position by checking the charted landmarks near that point that you see on the ground. For instance, here is your position fix. You've got two freeways right here in Escondido, California, one coming this way and the other that way. Excellent landmarks to find out and verify that you are found. You're no longer lost, and you can now revise your navigation plan to get where you want to go. But if you can only get one VOR, that's still a big help. First, find out what radial you're on. In this case, it looks like maybe 141. And then plot a line of position from the VOR. And by golly, you have to be somewhere on this line. And now you can estimate where you are along that radial and look for confirming landmarks. In this case, you might be able to see these power lines here that run across, or these towers. Here's a tower here, or maybe even that lake. Good landmarks to pick out. And again, if you find yourself, you can start your revised route direct from that position, or you can track that radial you're on as a course back to the VOR, and then continue navigating on another radial toward your destination. Now, for whatever reason, what if you can't raise a VOR? Are you out of business radio navigation-wise? Not at all. You have a couple more options, starting with your ADF. That stands for Automatic Direction Finder. Although there are far fewer FAA stations you can use your ADF with than VOR, ADF does have a unique capability. It will give you bearings to commercial AM radio broadcast stations with a needle that points to the station's antenna. And many of those stations are depicted on your sectional chart. Another feature is that the signals used by ADF are not strictly limited to line of sight. So you might pick up good old KCBQ, station 1170 AM, a pretty good distance away. And we'll talk more about ADF a little later. A very handy tool when you're lost is your Skyhawk's GPS. You'll learn more about your GPS later, but there are two basic features that can help a lot when you don't know exactly where you are. First, GPS can give you a readout of your present position in latitude and longitude, and ladies and gentlemen, that is really neat, because now all you have to do is plot your position on the chart and then use that to plot a course to where you want to be, let's say the Oceanside Airport. The other feature is almost unbelievable. If you ask your GPS, it will give you the course and distance to the nearest airports around your position. There it is, Oceanside Municipal. And you know, if you find an airport, you're all done being lost. The third C of the 4 C's you've learned is communicate. The air traffic control system has a large network of radio transmitters and receivers all over the country. And these are in addition to the flight service station radios. So in most areas, if you climb to higher altitudes, you should be able to reach one of these services. ATC can usually find you on radar, and the flight service stations may be able to give you a steer, that's a heading to fly, using direction finding equipment on your transmissions. They'll want you to talk, usually counting to 10. They call that a DF steer, and it has absolutely nothing to do with beef. So how do you know who to call and on what frequency? Some of the flight service station frequencies are on your chart above communications and navigation boxes right there. There are also tables of frequencies on the chart for control towers and radar approach control facilities. And the AFD, Airport Facility Directory, has a complete listing of air route traffic control centers and flight service stations in the back of the directory. Now, if you're having trouble getting someone to answer on the frequencies you've attempted, then try the Universal Flight Watch frequency of 122.0 or aviation's version of 911, the emergency frequency of 121.5. When you reach someone, tell them your situation. Tell them if you're lost and what your fuel state is, which means how much fuel you have left in time. If you started with 4 hours of fuel and you've flown for 3 hours, you have 1 hour of fuel left. Now, don't hold anything back, short of telling them about your Aunt Ethel's goiter. The more they know, the more they can help you. Most times, a controller on one of these frequencies will confirm your position by having you squawk a transponder code that identifies you on their radar screen. Once they locate you, they'll give you a heading to a nearby landmark or an airport or even straight to your destination. So what if you found your place in the world, but you're not close to your planned course? Well, you'll need to replan your route to get where you want to go. Your options are to continue on to your destination or fly to an alternate. Either way, you'll need to plot a new course to get there. And you'll want to do it quickly so you don't waste time and fuel. So, here are some techniques for laying out a revised route in the air. First, immediately turn in the general direction of your destination. A lot of fuel can be wasted going the other way. Now, plot a quick course from your current position to your destination. But don't worry about finding a line of longitude or latitude. Just slide your plotter on the chart to the nearest VOR, here's one right up here, and keeping it parallel to your new course, then read your magnetic course directly off the compass rose. Now right here, it looks about 125 degrees because there's 133 right here. This method may not be quite as accurate as what you did at a table before the flight, but it's good enough in this situation. Do this twice to be sure you've got it right, or check it again, and then jot it down so you don't forget. Once you've turned to this new heading, reset your heading indicator to be sure it's correct, and then start your time. You'll want to write this down also so you'll have a starting place in case you need to recalculate your position later. Now you can draw a line to your destination to get a more accurate heading. Let's draw a line straight down to where you want to go and then measure the distance. This will let you determine a new estimated time en route based on your previous ground speed. Go ahead and write down the distance and the ETE so you don't forget that either. There you go. When you have all this information, you can calculate how much fuel you'll need to get there, and it goes without saying. If there isn't enough fuel, you'll want to pick a new destination. And don't forget to give flight service a call with your new ETA and new destination if you've chosen a new one. Once you're on your way, pick some en route checkpoints as a reference to help you remain on course. In this case, let's take a look at these oil wells and these power lines. Let's mark a line right there and measure the distance. These will also allow you to see what your actual ground speed is, and you should write them down too. With an actual ground speed, you can figure out your new ETE and your fuel consumption. So there you have it. Everything you always wanted to know about being lost, but were afraid to ask. And now that you've got a bunch of new tools to help you get found, don't be afraid to use them. And please, don't be afraid to ask for help.